Want to welcome you all here today. We have a speech by Mr. Shahin Nezhad in regards to the Shahnameh. I will give you a brief background about Shahin, then he will start his lecture. Once he's finished, we'll take a few questions and he'll get them answered, okay? So please just sit down and enjoy. Shahin was born in Iran in 1967. He completed his education in petroleum engineering and received his master's in 1991 in Iran. He's currently studying his PhD at Sepenta University. His PhD thesis is Zoroastrianism in the late decades of Sasanian Iran. He's an associate professor. He was an associate professor in Ferdowsi University in 1992, and then in Tehran Azad University from 1993 to 1997. He worked for oil companies in United Kingdom from 1998 to 2005, and in USA from 2005 to present. Shahin has been teaching Shahnameh studies in workshops since 2008. He has given many speeches on cultural and historical topics relating to Iran, especially on Shahnameh and ancient Persian empires. He has been interviewed by Iranian radio and television stations broadcasting to Iran, discussing ancient and modern Iranian history. In 2011, he published a book titled The Dramatic Decline After the Climax. The book is published in Persian language. It researches the collapse of the Sasanian Empire against Muslim invaders. The book resources historical accounts in Roman, Armenian, Arabic, and Persian. The study is a conceptual and analytical study free of ideological and political biases.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Here, the life is easier. You can sit and relax and talk and feel comfortable. Thank you very much for being here. I guess the subject is a kind of subject that may have come to your mind in different occasions, different places that you have heard about Shahnameh or you thought about Shahnameh. Is it real? Is it a fiction? It's all made by Ferdowsi. What was the source of Shahnameh for Ferdowsi? What was the plan? What was the objective of putting together something as Shahnameh? And very big majority of us, regardless of interest that we may show to Shahnameh for emotional reasons, we may not be able to answer that question precisely and accurately, that Shahnameh is a fiction or truth. And I'm trying to give you a picture today in this session, and then you can judge yourself that is it a fiction or truth, and perhaps the answer is not just one word, it's more complicated than that. In order to answer this question, let's look at Shahnameh and see what items have been included in Shahnameh. Shahnameh itself depends on which manuscript you take. We've got about 15 original manuscripts in different museums worldwide. In Leningrad, in London, in Cairo, in different places. And depends on which version you take. You can count the number of verses or couplets from almost 50 to 60,000 verses. The reason that we don't have a certain copy to call it the very, very original Shahnameh written by Ferdowsi is unfortunately the oldest version, the oldest copy of Shahnameh that we have access to today is 240 to 260 years after Ferdowsi. So it's about 2.5 centuries different with Ferdowsi's time itself. And then there are some errors and mistakes by authors of Shahnameh when they try to copy it and write it in different places in different times. And also there are some, I would say, intentional amendment in Shahnameh text due to ideological or political motives. Therefore, one of the main tasks of Shahnameh researchers today is comparing different manuscripts, different copies, and try to come up with the version which is the closest one to what Ferdowsi produced more than 10 centuries ago. That's the reason I'm saying between 50 to 60,000. And it's traditionally divided into 3 sections. There is no border between this section, and Ferdowsi didn't define these sections. This is what today we believe that Shahnameh can be divided into 3 sections. First, the mythological part. Second, the heroic or epic section. And the third one is the historical account of Shahnameh. Okay, now we are trying to address that question in these 3 parts. The mythological part, I guess the name which has been given to that section is pretty clear. We don't believe those things happened as the stories are. But there is a very clever element there. We've got characters in the mythological part of Shahnameh like Qumars, Hushang, or Tahmures. Each character represents a certain period of human life on the Iranian plateau during the history. For instance, Qumars was Palangine Push. He had a skin dress, and he was living in mountains and caves. So that refers to the period of time that human had not built a house yet. So Qumars represents, God knows, maybe 100,000 years of human's life on earth, and some achievements of human in that time. Then we get to Siamak, his son, then Hushang. For instance, about Hushang is famous in Shahnameh. He sees a snake, he throws a stone toward the snake, and because of accident between 2 pieces of stone, there is fire. So human discovers fire. Hushang, in fact, represents a period of time of human life in earth that fire was discovered. So human could overcome the darkness, the cold, and after that he started melting ores, got iron, started manufacturing metals. And when you look at the name of Hushang, the one who discovered fire, it means, in Avestan language, it means the owner of a good house. So humans started building houses. They started a kind of urban civilization. And then Tahmures overcame thieves and asked them to teach him how to write. So that refers to the period of time that humans started writing and reading. So it describes the whole section. This mythological section describes for us the way that human life was evolved during history. And perhaps, remember, Shahnameh has been extracted from oral history. And when we talk about oral, perhaps we remember that it's pretty fragile. It may change time to time. Therefore, the best way to educate people about these sequences of humans' history is trying to compress thousands of years in one character and call him Jamshid or call him Hushang. So that's the mythological part. When you get to Jamshid, then you see a lot of stories. He expanded the territory that people used to live. He increased the land. We know the land cannot be increased or decreased. It means that people started to spread out on different regions, and the population increased. They got better watersheds, better places for their animals. It seems human got to a level of luxury. The life became much better, and then we got to the story of Zahak. Therefore, very cleverly in Shahnameh, our ancestors managed to teach us the way the human life was developed. And nobody claims that those characters really existed. But from names of those characters, we know that intentionally the name has been chosen to tell us that this person represents millions of human beings who came, lived, and died, and achieved something and added to the previous achievements of human. When we get to story of Feridun and his sons Iraj, Salm, and Tur, that's almost end of mythological section of Shahnameh. And then we enter the heroic or epic phase of Shahnameh. I skipped this section, get to the third section intentionally, because third section, the historical part, starts from Ashkanian Arsacid, but it's very, very brief, about maybe 10 lines, and then the history of Sasanian started. About this section of Shahnameh, if you compare Shahnameh with any other professional historians' books, like Tabari, Sa'alabi, Gardizi, Yaqubi, Mas'udi, Hamza Isfahani, with all of these accounts, apart from two stories which we know it's not real, and Ferdowsi knew it's not real, but intentionally they were expressed, the rest are very accurate and pretty consistent with what other historians, Iranian, Romans, or Armenian, wrote about Iranian history during the Sasanian time. Therefore, the Sasanian portion or the historical portion of Shahnameh is accurate history, and you can rely on that with 90% confidence. So I talked about the mythological part. I talked about the historical parts. Let's go back to the middle part of Shahnameh, which roughly about 2/3 of Shahnameh belongs to this section, epic or heroic part. And the very famous stories of Shahnameh have come from this section. Rostam و Sohrab, Rostam و Esfandiyar, Bahram, Furud, Siyawash, Kaykhosro, and other characters. That's the part that it seems everybody agrees that Ferdowsi has done the most amazing job and really mastered the epic in service of objective of expressing the Iranian worldview, Iranian virtues, Iranian values, dreams, wishes, and all things that for his ancestors who came within millenniums, lived and left a legacy behind, were items to care about. Now, what about this epic part? Rostam existed or not? What about Kaykhosru? What about Siavash? Now, in order to explain that, let's look at Shahnameh from another point of view. Opposite of epic works like Iliad of Homer or probably Mahabharata in India, Shahnameh doesn't have a single layer. It's a multi-layer phenomena. What does it mean? Let's look at, for instance, the story of Feridun and his three sons, Iraj, Salm, and Tur. Feridun, after overthrowing Zahak, Ajidahak, then make a peaceful and comfortable atmosphere for people. People live happily, and then he becomes old and he decides to split his territory among three sons, Iraj, Salm, and Tur. Salm and Tur are brothers from one wife, and Iraj is their stepbrother from another wife. And he gave the middle part or best part of his territory to his youngest son, Iraj, which Iraj is synonym of Iran. Iraj means Iran. And the eastern section and western section to Salm and Tur respectively. And Salm is kind of father of European and Roman and Greek races, and Tur on the eastern border of Iran represents those Indo-Iranian race which is stayed and lived in the Central Asia part of the Asia. Two brothers envy their youngest brother. They decide to kill him, to take Iran for themselves. So they act very cruelly. They kill their younger brother, and Feridun was informed about this incident, and he encouraged Iraj son-in-law, Iraj grandson, to avenge this crime. Now, which layers we see in this story? One layer is definitely, when you read the Shahnameh text, it's very obvious. There is a test by Feridun on these three sons because Iraj shows some characters. He gives the best part of his territory, Iran, to Iraj. Very obviously, what we see there is forming the ethnic groups. I don't use the word of nations because some European believe that nation was defined in Europe in 18th and 19th centuries. I don't believe so. I think the feelings or the criteria which are required to define a nation was in the East, definitely in Iran, from a very long time ago. Therefore, what we can learn from there is ethnic groups started recognizing each other. I'm Iranian, I'm Turanian, I'm Roman. So that's one story. It tries to explain that. Again, instead of using three groups of people, three characters represents the whole story. On the other hand, when you look at the root of the words, Salm in Shahnameh, in Avesta you've got Sarme, and Sarm is Sarma, is cold. Therefore, one brother name is associated with the cold climate. The other one, Tur, the most famous characters among Turanian, the enemy of Iran for the whole part of the epic section of Shahnameh, is Afrasiab. Afrasiab, when you look at the root of the word, means the one who disappears water. The one who disappears water. Means drought. Means drought in English. So two brothers, one cold, one drought, are killing Iran at the middle. Iran is smashed between two natural disasters. Some years drought, some years cold. And that was something that definitely our ancestors saw and felt the pain, not for a year or 2 years, for a long period of time, which became a legacy for us. And today we learn the story that Salman Tur were cruel to their youngest brother and killed Iraj, means they killed Iran. So there are two layers in this story, appearing these ethnic groups from one side, and also when you look at the words, a natural phenomena which is perhaps associated with the Iran geographical situation. So when you look at Shahnameh from this point of view, you will see that the epic or heroic section of Shahnameh, that most of the characters of Shahnameh that you are familiar with exists within that section. Rostam, Keykavuz, Keykhosro, Esfandiar, Siavash. You have to look at it as multi-layer phenomena in order to answer it. People talk about Simurgh. They talk about Div. Who are they? What do they do? Are they real or not? What we can say is all of these characters have been brought to the stories for a reason. Our ancestors were not just fan of fiction. They didn't want to make Superman or Batman. They tried to transfer the worldviews of their contemporary era to the next generations. And from a fact that they got from an historical event, they started polishing the story in order to make it educational for upcoming people in the upcoming millenniums. In fact, from that respect, you can say Shahnameh is an embodiment of Persian or Iranian soul, because it captures our values for the time. Nobility, bravery, wisdom, justice. Those characters, those elements which have been admired by Iranian ideologies within the time. So when they pick one story, you have to look at it from different angles, and then you get a very, very good perception about what we were and how we used to see the world. You can read Shahnameh carefully, and you get a very good feeling and understanding of how did we look at the world, or tasks in this life, the relation between human and nature, the relation between human and human. Perhaps the eternal battle of good and evil is there. It's very, very significant. You cannot overlook it. On the other hand, you can see some traces of other Iranian, and when I refer to Iranian, I'm not talking about the current Iran only. I'm talking about a greater Iran from Central Asia and Transoxiana all the way to Mesopotamia and to Caucasus Mountains and Anatolia Plateau. When I refer to Iranian, about and the subject is Shahnameh. It's not the current borders, within current borders of Iran. It's much bigger than that. Therefore, that's the best way. If somebody goes to a psychological class, or he tries to get a DNA test and tries to find his ancestors, even in US here today, you can, I don't know, send a piece of your hair and they examine and they tell you who you are in terms of DNA and gene. The best thing for us to look at and get a very good sense of what were our values, what items, what characters have been admired by our ancestors, what was good, what was bad in Iranians' point of view is Shahnameh. For instance, in the whole Shahnameh, life-loving and being joyful has been admired. So it was a value to be happy, to act happy, and to love living. I don't see that character in current generations, or maybe for several centuries we have been far from that. Another factor that you see in Shahnameh is a very, very valuable character among people is whoever makes something, develop something. He's one of those that Ferdowsi, on behalf of our ancestors, has admired a lot. Development is a value. It can be economic development, social development, cultural development. It's all value. Again, I guess one reason that we have come down from that climax to the current decline is being separated from those values. Two characters which not only in Shahnameh but also in any other historical documents of pre-Islam Iran you can see, and those are the essentials characters, are wisdom and justice. Justice perhaps is not Dad or Dadgari in today's Farsi. It's bigger than that. It's Asha. It's order and justice. And perhaps about wisdom, I'm pretty sure all of you know that nothing as wisdom has been admired in Gatha. Shahnameh is in a very, very has a very good harmony with Avesta in terms of heroic and epic part of that. You can compare it with Yashts in Shahnameh, in Avesta, and if you read them together, I guess it's very eye-opening. And in terms of philosophy and thoughts as a school of thought, you can see that a big portion of Zarathusht teachings and worldview have been transferred to the Shahnameh in a pretty artistic work. For the middle part, for epic or heroic section of Shahnameh, not necessarily we had a person like Rostam with all of those adventures, but we had Rostams who in their time did their best for preserving the country, the values, the people, the interest of people. They stood for justice. They admired wisdom. They wanted a just system, and they hate cruelty and being savage. And when you look at another character, Siavash, did we have a prince like that? Siavash might be a historical figure, but more important than that is when you read the story of Siavash, like the story of Esfandiar, you see that intentionally in this story, all fathers and mother very cleverly confronted two values. One being loyal to the king or to the country, another one staying with our moral values. Siavash is ordered from his father, Keikavus, to kill the hostages and advance into the Turan land. Okay, it might bring victory for Iran. So that's if you're a patriot, that's a national task. You have to do it. On the other hand, Shah Keikavus has ordered it, Siavash father, so he has to obey the rule. But is it moral? These are hostages which had been given to Siavash just to guarantee that we, Turanian, don't want to invade Iran anymore. So which of them do you want to do? That's the situations that Ferdowsi, again, behalf of others, has caused in Shahnameh, has created in Shahnameh, that you feel you are in that situation and it makes very, very difficult for you to decide. I want to go with my father's order, the king's order, to bring victory and pride for my country, or stick to my moral, to my conscience, and release the hostages, even if I have to pay a big price, leave my homeland, go to Turan, and eventually lose my life. You can see similar story, not the same story, about Esfandiar. Esfandiar is ordered by Goshtasp to go and take care of Rostam. And Esfandiar knows that one side he has to obey the rule, his father, and on the other hand he knows that Rostam has been the national hero for Iran, and he did his best over his life to protect people and protect the borders. Putting us in this situation always brings some lessons for us. If you read, I really want every of you, if you haven't done it, so if you can read Farsi, or if you can read English, you can do it. Read the text of Rostam and Esfandiar. You may know the story, but read the text. Every 4 or 5 lines that you read, you change the side. You stay with Rostam, and you want him to be the winner of the battle. Then, due to some conversations and attitudes that you see from these two sides, you have more sympathy with Esfandiar. And it changes several times. Ferdowsi plays with our emotions and our minds because he wants us to challenge ourselves, to see what is right and what is wrong. This has been, I guess, the biggest business for Iranian thoughts, what is wrong and what is right. So among the stories, these lessons can be passed to the next generation. And something else that I have to add about Shahnameh, remember that each phenomena is a function of its own time and place. The situation usually causes something happens within history. If Shahnameh was formed as it is today, more than 1,000 years ago in that part of Iran, and it became our ID card today somehow, it was due to necessity of what Iranian society needed. Therefore, you can see among the poems that Ferdowsi has written that he tries also to show his position toward the Iranian society, the ruling of Islamic Khalif, the throne which has gone to Sultan Mahmud from a Turkish tribe, deteriorating of the Iranian society due to losing the identity. So he feels there that it's not just about past, it's about present. I have to show contemporary people about what's going on. Therefore, Ajidahak, which is a character in Avesta, but that character is a dragon, in Shahnameh gets or receives a human body shape. He's portrayed as a human with perhaps a snake on his shoulders. And why Ajidahak, the name should be changed to Zahak? And Ferdowsi says Zahak was Tazi, he was Arab, according to Ferdowsi. And then when you compare it with Avesta, you know Ajidahak had nothing to do with Tazi. And it was a dragon. Perhaps even in Avesta, it's trying to give us a moral lesson. But what I'm saying is, changing the identity of a dragon to human to make him a Tazi, considering it's about 3 centuries after Arab invasion, and the pressure from the Abbasi Islamic Khalif, I guess he very cleverly was trying to give us a consciousness, a national consciousness, and reminds us of what happened to us 3 centuries before that, during Qadisiyah and Arab conquest of Persia, that Zahak that I'm talking about, somewhere, no time, no place in mythology, it's today's in our daily life. We see it and we feel it every day. So some of these minor things that most of historians do not have answer for, why Ajidahak became Zahak, it seems that's intentional, that's clever, and that tries to give us a consciousness, stimulate people to look around and see what is happening today has happened in the past. And because of that, again, you see that some elements which do not seem fact are there. And Ferdowsi was aware himself better than all of us here that this is a portion of the story which makes the story more, I would say, complex. Shahnameh doesn't have any simple story. All stories are complex for, as I said, because they are multi-layers and also because of multi-purposes. They have been narrated for multi-purposes. Also, I mentioned 2 verses from Shahnameh about Ferdowsi's opinion about the contents of Shahnameh. He says to us about Shahnameh, تو این را دروغ و فسانه مدان، به یکسان روشن زمانه مدان، از او هرچه اندر خورد با خرد، دگر بر ره رمز معنا برد. I guess very explicitly he says here that don't think that these are just fictions and stories to entertain you. Those parts which are consistent and in line with wise and logic, that's obvious. The rest, بر ره رمز معنا برد. Go and find the key to understand the code and extract the message of this story or other stories. How much time I have? Thank you very much, and I'm here for your questions.
Hello? Okay. I have a question for you. In Shahnameh, there is no mention of Hacham and Nishian. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Sure, that's a question that has been raised in different academic environments. Shahnameh was put together using another Shahnameh, Shahnameh Abu Mansuri, which was a prose Shahnameh. It was not in poems, it was prose, it was Nasr, not Sher. And that Shahnameh had been translated from Khodainameh, which had been written in Pahlavi language in the first place, very likely during Anushirvan. Okay, therefore Khodainameh, which is the main source of Shahnameh, but not the whole Shahnameh, but main source of it, has been compiled during Sasanian, especially during Khosrow I, Anushirvan. We know because of this continuity of our history due to Alexander's invasion to Persia at the end of the Achaemenid period, we were not very informed and aware of what happened before Sasanian, before Ardashir Babakan, in that time. So that's the reason that you see Ashkanian, Arsacid, who ruled Iran for more than 4 centuries, about 470 years, have been mentioned in Shahnameh in 6 or 7 lines. That's all. Ferdowsi says they were children of Arash Kamangir. That's all. And about Haqamaneshian, nothing has been passed to Ferdowsi via Khodainameh because of lack of presence of Haqamaneshian in Khodainameh. Something which is very important, and that makes it a bit doubtful, however, I should add, is Haqamaneshian, Achaemenids were mentioned in Torah, in Old Testament. And we know that Jewish people lived in Iran for millenniums. And definitely during Sasanian, they were present not only in the country, but also in the palaces. For instance, Yazgir, the first wife, was Jewish, mother of Bahram Gur. What I'm trying to say is, if Jews were there, and perhaps they knew their Old Testament, they knew about Achaemenids. But the official version of Iranian history compiled during Sasanian period didn't recognize it as reliable history. Therefore, our history, which have been written in Shahnameh, looked at Kianid or Kianian as the dynasty who ruled in Iran before Alexander. And you see a pretty mix of end of Achaemenids and Alexander invasion in history. But that's the main reason. And perhaps Khodainameh was not the only source of for Ferdowsi for writing the Shahnameh, but we know many of these stories have come from Khodainameh, and it was kind of encyclopedia for Iran, because it had not only the history and mythology and epic of Iran, but also it contained sciences, social sciences, medicine science, all things which could be a legacy of a country, of a nation.
In the Odyssey, you have Achilles, and nothing can penetrate him except the heel, because when he was born, he was dipped in water, and where he was held, the fingers when he was dipped, was not exposed to that special water which made his skin impenetrable. In Asfandiar's fight with Rustam, it's different, but the concept is the same. It's the eyes. because when the child was dipped, it closed its eyes, and so the eyes, when they opened, was not protected. And the same, because Rustam is losing the battle with Asfandiar because he cannot pierce him. And then the Simorgh or whatever says to him, the only way you can defeat him or kill him is to shoot the arrow in his eye. Which came? Did this story come from Odyssey, or did the Asfandiar Rustam story come from the Shahnameh to Odyssey?
In terms of timing, since one character of mythologies and epic is being timeless, it's very difficult to compare. But definitely about Shahnameh, something we know is the story is original for a moral purpose. Remember, Esfandiar is very faithful. He does believe in religion, in new religion. And the only part of his body, as you mentioned, the weakness point is his eyes. For a faithful people, for a fanatic religious person, if you put in that way, you cannot harm that person. He has nothing to be afraid of. He's brave. He fights for his belief. There is no way that you can beat him. The only weakness that a very fanatic religious person has is their vision, their lack of vision. They have got very strong heart, very faithful. Probably they don't care about their lives, as we can see. But lack of vision is the weakness point. And Esfandiar in that story almost beats Rustam. There is nothing that Rustam can do about it. Eventually, Simorgh gave the solution to Rustam, that go for his eyes. This is a good man. If you kill him, you will be in trouble, and your life will be ruined, as it will. After that story, we see Rustam was killed by his brother, by his stepbrother Shagad. But this is one side of Shahnameh that again we love, and that's, it seems things have to happen. Sometimes you cannot stop it. The tragedy is very, very strong. It's much richer than Greek tragedies. Battle of Rustam and Esfandiar is the battle of good and better. Because none of those characters is negative. They are very, very popular, very admirable. All of those have shown characters. But I think Ferdowsi tried there just to give one benefit to Rustam. And that benefit is a lack of vision for a very orthodox religious person. That's the only way you can beat him. In terms of timing, I cannot say they have got it from us or not, but Rustam and Esfandiar is a very original story. Remember, before Muhammad, many, many years before Muhammad, in Mecca, Rustam and Esfandiar was narrated among Arabs as a Parsi story. Therefore, it must have been there for many, many years that people can talk, can tell the story in Arabic language. I guess that's a very, very original and local story in Iran.
I want to thank Mr. Shahin Nezhad for teaching us and sharing your knowledge with us. This is a small token of appreciation from the Congress. And once again, thank you.